Hi everyone, it's me, Krylios, Team Racing Productions MC and producer. And it is so great to be here today. It's so great to be here with everyone. Today we have a special guest with us. And so please welcome to our YouTube live, Graham McLaughlin. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Certainly, it is a pleasure to have you here. So, I want to kick this off with just having you introduce yourself to our audience and letting them know a little bit about you and a little bit about your background.
Yeah, well, thanks for the opportunity. And it's really, again, really nice to be here. So I've been in DC for about 20 years, and I am a man of faith who tries to live that out in his actions. So I've lived with guys coming out of prison for about a decade, helped a number of returning citizens launch small businesses that are employing over 40 DC residents today. I'm on the board of a nonprofit accelerator and venture firm for Black-owned businesses to try to address the historic marginalization and lack of investment in Black business owners, especially Black women business owners. And then also have worshiped at historically Black churches since 2014, because when I think about racial reconciliation, you hear a lot about how Sunday at 11 a.m. is the most segregated hour of the week. And I think, as a person who is white, a person who through just the birth lottery has unearned comparative advantage, how am I taking a step further kind of out of my own comfort zone in order to be able to be a part of that? And it's been such an amazing thing as I've grown in my faith over that time to really kind of see God in different ways as different people worship. And, that's really what caused me to want to enter into the arena of public service, this feeling of how are we creating this beautiful, loving community through policy, through the microphone of leadership, et cetera. So
Mhm.
really trying to think about how I can do that and partner with folks like you and their megaphones to think about how do we build that loving community.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. That is great to hear. And so now you've thrown your hat into the ring for here in the District of Columbia. Let's talk about it. DC Council at large. What made you, what was it about this election cycle or this time that made you really want to get involved and represent the people in a different way, a more expanded way?
Yeah, well, and I even look at you and some of the work that you do in the LGBTQ space and thinking about, racial connection, reconciliation, et cetera. And, I'd be interested in your take on this too, but I feel like there's a lot of discussions on binaries, black,
Mhm.
white, good, bad, worker, owner, et cetera, versus this idea of we all want the same things. We all want ourselves and everybody we love and everybody in this city to be able to lay their head in a safe, secure place, to be able to walk down the street and feel a sense of safety and be able to have access to and afford a nice restaurant or art or cultural event, or no matter where you live, have a grocery store that's close by. And so the question really isn't like, what do we all want? Because I think we're pretty aligned with that, but it's how do you get there? And for
Mhm.
me, what I didn't think that we were doing was thinking about how do we leverage the amazing talent across all 8 wards of this city? Thinking about how we use the most budget per capita of any city in the nation to really think about how do we trust people? How do we listen to people? And how do we engage in community driven solutions? Because people know what they need in their neighborhoods. So as
Mhm.
politicians, we got to stop coming in and being like, I know what you need and I'm going to put it there versus saying, hey, I'm smart enough to know I need to listen to you, not smart enough to think that I know better than you do. And so my campaign is really about how do we create community driven solutions? How do we create a sense of inclusion and connection and partnership to together create the city that we want to live in? And I
That's
didn't think that was
important.
occurring in politics. So I really wanted to do that.
Certainly, certainly. Now, Graham, I'd love to know what are some of those issues or challenges or, those things, maybe two, maybe three, that you would really, really like to tackle if, elected to the role and you being a part of the DC Council, the at large. What are some of those challenges or issues that you'd really like to tackle?
Yeah, well, to the point of I want to listen to people. As I go across the entire city, the most important thing I'm hearing from everyone is I want to feel safe. as I walk the streets, as I ride the bus, as I, am in my house. And that sounds different depending on where you are, but the point is the same. And I think I want to step back to the idea of, well, how do we make policy? And if we make policy from a community-driven way and with love, what's that mean? And that means we do have to create a safe place. And if there are people in our city who are engaging in violence, who are, hurting others, we have to remove them. That doesn't mean removing without justice or whatever it would be, but how are we doing so in a way that is accretive to both victim and perpetrator and the rest of society? So, one of the things that I'd like to do is ensure that we're engaged in diversion programs, especially for youth who are committing violent acts for the first time, so that we are taking a young person off the street who has, been unsafe to others, but we're not saying we're going to remove you from all programming, everything else, lock you up forever, and sort of throw away the key, because that doesn't work and make us safe either. But neither does just doing nothing. And so, as I think about that, how do you take that action to divert, to change that path of that young person and to give them the support they need, while also saying it is unacceptable to do that? Another aspect of that, I think, is investing in the 911 infrastructure, investing in detective and investigative services, and also in investing, ensure that there's accountability as we invest in those areas of keeping streets safe, to ensure that we're also doing things like, if police officers are overstepping what is asked of them, which, by the way, I think we ask way too much of police officers. So how are we also thinking about how do we de-escalate situations by triaging, which I would invest in 911 triage capabilities to be able to ensure that if it is a mental health situation, we're sending mental health professionals, not police officers, to escalate the situation. Everybody wants that I talk to in the community. It's just, let's put the policy in to get there. But going back to the accountability, I think the Police Reform Commission had some good ideas on asking less of the police and, putting in different places, and ensuring that if an officer oversteps, there are consequences to, actions that are unfounded or violent. And so that's one thing. Is just there's a lot more there. I think that's the immediate enforcement, but there's also, how are we investing in educational infrastructure and a support infrastructure to, before we get to criminal activity, how do we think about, 0 to 3? I think we should have universal childcare across the city, because I think that's something that, one, again, I'm hearing everybody needs and does the best we can to set up on equal footing the opportunity to be supported right as you are starting life. A few more things like that. I think we should invest in career-based training in high schools, not just really push the, college pathway, give an option of both, or, kind of you are actually engaging in both, where it's some college, some apprenticeship, et cetera. But a lot of this holistic support to think about safe streets as more than just, hey, we can invest early on, or this binary of we have to enforce, but again, this like sort of infrastructure. So that's number one that I'm hearing from people is, I want to feel safe. I want to be safe. I want to get guns off the streets, et cetera. And then I think the second is housing, which I'll touch on briefly. And that is just, for me, I come back to how, as we think about equity, are we creating true equity? We have an 81x black-white wealth gap in this city. We have 1 in 6 of our neighbors living in poverty. And so we need to meet basic needs, but we can't say, well, mission accomplished from there. How are we ensuring that we're actually creating ownership, that we're actually providing a pathway to generational wealth? So to me, a big aspect of housing policy is ensuring that we are providing support for people to buy houses, not just to get permanent supportive housing vouchers, which I think is important too. But that's the part I would really emphasize, because I think we're putting a lot of investment in, housing overall from a housing production trust and other things. I think the two areas we're missing are 0 to 30% of AMI, area median income. So for those with, the least, who are in real economic trouble, how are we ensuring that there is housing available? And then how are we ensuring a pathway to ownership so that we ensure everyone can stay in the city who desires to do so, including folks like teachers, police officers, et cetera, who are in public service positions, as well as individuals in the city who just want to stay here. So those are kind of two major. And then
Yeah.
something that to me is the underlying infrastructure. And again, I think you do this so well. I love your perspective on it too, is how do we just build that loving, connected community? This might sound like a small thing, but I'd love to have community dinners across this city with people from all kinds of different backgrounds. And, you have to have at least 4 wards represented. Things like that, to just, instead of walking beside each other, truly kind
Walk
of connecting
together.
with each other. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so to me, if we can get at that root issue, that heart issue, that connection issue, a lot of these other things we begin to solve together.
Certainly, certainly. I like that. That's a great way to look at it. So when it comes to this, when it comes to this election, and when you look at your other people running and everything like that, what makes you the best choice for voters come this election season?
Yeah. One, I I don't think I'm the smartest. I think as a community, we're the smartest. What I do think I am is the best listener. And I have demonstrated that over many years, which I'll talk about in a second, that I truly will connect with community. And by that, I mean truly all 8 words. I think I have an interesting background in that I, kind of have worked in boardrooms, and I have lived with guys coming out of prison, and I have launched businesses, and I have worshiped across different churches, but in an interfaith way, have welcomed folks to Shabbat dinners and other things. And so, what does it look like, again, for this city to be truly connective in an inclusive way? And I think through my own life, I have demonstrated that in the way that I've listened. And, I appreciate you putting some of the things that you put up there right now. One thing that this doesn't talk about is launching a number of businesses. Well, I guess the second bullet does, but, and all of them helped launch, but they're all owned now by individuals from challenged backgrounds, whether that is returning citizen, whether that is historically marginalized, depending on one aspect or multiple aspects of an intersectional identity. And I think that's a really important aspect for someone who is asking to be an elected leader, is how are you not going to make it about yourself, but how are you going to make it about the full community and really supporting amazing things happening from the incredible people that live in this city and want to make a difference. So that's the major thing. I mean, I think number 2 is just, you see some of the stuff on the screen, but I've done this. I'm not saying, hey, I'm going to start doing this if you elect me. Or, hey, I've been in office for a number of years and I've passed a few things here and there. But it's, what over the next 4 years do we want this city to look like?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it is us all connecting and building it together. That's what I've been doing for the last 10, 15, 20 years. And that's what I'd like to do for the next 4.
Awesome, awesome. So for viewers watching, please let everyone know when voting begins.
Yeah, so I'm running as an independent in the at-large election. So what you have up there is the primary elections. Because I'm an independent, I won't be in the primaries, but your mayoral race, the Democratic at-large race, which is Anita Bonds is the incumbent, and then a number of other individuals, et cetera. But for me, I'm hoping between October 28th and November 7th, you will be early voting, and November 8th is the election. But what I would love for folks to do as well is register to vote, and then think about how they can be part of building this community with me. One of the things that we really want to do is not have the here is my vision for the city kind of thing and it be about Graham, but really think about how is this about everyone contributing, connecting, et cetera. So folks can go to my website, grahamfordc.com. That's GRAHAMFORDC.com, and can read a little bit more up on me. But I'd love for you also to join us, put your information in, and then you can receive some of the emails, but also just email us and say, hey, I'd love to be part of this. I'd love to, volunteer and really build out this community. Because there's a lot of different things that we can do. And, I'm not one of those politicians who's like, okay, you can door knock, you can phone bank, whatever. Like, let's throw a cool volunteer event. Let's do something where we have an interfaith, Muslim, Jewish, Christian discussion on what it looks like to be a member of the Abrahamic faiths. Let's talk about why LGBTQ folks are actually welcomed into the kingdom of God. And that's very clearly articulated in the Bible, at least in my view. Let's talk about these things that are really interesting and help us think about how are we part of this inclusive community that sees not, hey, we all just want to come together and kind of sing kumbaya sort of thing, but saying, hey, there's a lot of interesting, important aspects of people's perspectives, backgrounds, intersectional identities that if we all come together are going to complement each other and create this incredible city. So I'd love folks who are interested in doing that kind of thing to say, hey, I'd like to be part of this, and here's my idea how to do it. And then let's all create the city we want together.
Exactly. I like that. I like that. We want to remind all our viewers that, keep the dates in mind, keep when the election is in mind. We want everyone to register to vote before then. So you can go to headcount.org to check your voter registration status, pledge to vote, and register to vote. And Graham has actually dropped the website already. So we're going to have the link in the description, but we do want to remind everyone how they can reach out to you, learn more about your campaign, learn more about you, volunteer, donate, support in any way. So, and follow you on social media. So how are they able to do that?
Yeah, so as you know, I appreciate once again you team me up for that. I would love folks to go to grahamfordc.com. You can learn more about my in-depth policies on a number of areas. But again, you can just sign up to say, hey, I want to be part of this movement of really thinking about how do we create this inclusive, connected DC. And most importantly, where you say, hey, I'd like to take action in this way. Because we don't want to prescribe these are the three ways. We want this truly to be a groundswell from the community. And the second thing that I would ask is, no matter your level of resources, one of the things that's important to me is to say, hey, I have folks of all backgrounds, all wards, all interest areas, all intersections of identities who have said, I'm voting with my feet, my dollars, and my vote. And so I'm not asking you to max out or stretch or anything like that. But if you even just went and said, I like what you're saying and I'd like to give $1 just so people know that I'm for you, I'd be grateful for that. And so whether it's your finances, whether it is your time, whether it's your skills, would love for you to be part of the team and us create something amazing together.
Perfect. And as I said before, we will have those links in the description so viewers can go ahead and check it out right now. Graham, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been such a pleasure getting to chat with you, getting to know more about you and your campaign and your vision for the city and how you would like to contribute in representing the people and bringing us all together. So thank you so much for being here today.
Well, it was an honor to be here. I admire all the work that you do to create inclusion and connectedness and a lot of the things that I was talking today. So I hope this won't be the last time we chat.
Certainly. I look forward to our future chats. Those watching, please follow Team Racing Productions at Team Racing on all forms of social media. Click around our YouTube channel and see what's going on and make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. But most of all, thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.